What is going on, everybody? My name is Dakota and welcome back to Cologne. Today we're going to be looking at and reviewing Rasasi's Hawas Ice. I hope I said the Rasasi's part right. I've seen that there's one or two different ways to say that. I'm just kind of going with my best educated guess. Alrighty, so today is going to be one of those days where it is blazing hot outside. We really don't feel like messing with it. So whenever it's really, really hot outside, one of the things I like to do is still wear these summer freshies, but stay inside because it is incredibly hot and I don't like dealing with a whole lot of that heat. Alrighty, so as we like to do in every video, we are going to... Ain't no way, I just pulled the top off. My atomizer fell off. Go ahead and grab that and put this back on. So bottle quality is okay, just okay. But we're gonna go ahead and check out the atomizer now. And the atomizer still works beautifully. This is actually a very good atomizer because it has a monster burst out of this thing. A lot of juice comes out of this in one spray. So the first thing you notice when this gets in the air is almost an overwhelming, like, sweet fruitiness, or at least that's what my nose picks up the most. This does have a decent amount of citrus notes on the top as well, but to me it's more so like a fruitier, fresh style. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 there on the wrist, and after about 10 minutes or so of wearing this, some of that fruitiness starts to dial back a little bit. Some of the floral notes in this start to come out a little bit, and a little bit of a powderiness starts to develop in this as well. For how powerful this fragrance is, it's kind of weird to have like a light powdery style that's also incredibly thick. I don't want to say overwhelming, but it's a very thick smell. Like it's one of those that's just kind of want to go everywhere. All right, so getting into the notes of this, the top notes on this is going to be apple, bergamot, lemon, and star anise. I think I'm saying that one right. And that is where some of your citrus comes from, obviously. I don't get much apple out of this at all, though. This doesn't have like that fresh green kind of crispness to it on the opening that you would normally expect out of like an apple note. The middle notes on this are going to be plum, cardamom, and orange blossom. And the plum is very noticeable. So is the orange blossom. So I almost feel like that's what gives it a lot of that overwhelming fruitiness when you first spray it, is the plum note is turned up to 100 all the way through this fragrance. All the way into the dry down, it stays, it never goes away. And some of the orange blossom on this gives it a little bit of that floral that works very well with some of the citrus notes that's on the top of this. And the base notes of this dries down to a musk, moss, a driftwood, and an amber. So they kept that driftwood vibe. And to me, the driftwood they use in this almost reminds me of like a lot of the teak wood style fragrances that we used to smell like a decade ago. To me, this one does smell maybe a little bit old fashioned, and not in the sense that it stinks or smells bad or anything, but it smells like a fragrance that kind of reminds me of almost like my high school years. But as it starts to dry down a little bit, it stays a little bit linear in the first half of the dry down. It stays very fruity, but it's just kind of dialed back just a little bit. A lot of the driftwood really starts to come out in this. A lot of that like musky powderiness is pretty much there straight from the get-go on this. But the thing that I like the most is it always keeps a floral undertone in the background. And I kind of feel like that's what gives us some of that lightness to it. I don't really want to call this aromatic at all because this fragrance is kind of heavy. For being a dominant summertime fragrance, which is where I would wear this one the most, this is a heavy fragrance. But what we're going to touch on next is going to be the price, performance, and availability. Availability-wise, you're pretty much only going to be able to get this online. I don't think any retailer next to like a mom and pop shop would have this. Price-wise, this is going to slide in somewhere into that $70 to $80 range. If you can get a discount code, or if you can get a coupon code on some of the discounter sites, you could probably pick this up for about 40, 50 bucks. That would be the range where I would go with this, because for that, you get a fragrance that smells just a little bit synthetic, not overwhelmingly synthetic. This does smell more natural than its predecessor. The original Hawas, to me, had a very synthetic feel to it. This one does smell a little more natural. But the biggest place where this thing shines, where you get all of your money's worth, is going to be in the performance. This thing is a performance monstrosity. So for this being an eau de parfum concentration, one that is meant to be worn in the hot days in the summer and stuff like that, this thing lasts almost too long, honestly, in my opinion. When I put this on my skin, I get 8, 9, 10 hours out of this thing. And the sillage and projection both are huge. This thing pushes away from your skin. It falls away from your skin. It wants to go everywhere. This could easily be a fragrance to where if you overspray it just a little, you will fill up an entire room. Everyone in there will know you're going to be wearing this. And honestly, for the performance, for the profile, for everything you get, to get that in like a, we'll say $60 to $70 range, isn't bad at all. So that's honestly where this thing is going to shine the most. The profile is better than the original Hawas. So that's why I like this one honestly a lot more. Where the only complaints I'm probably going to have on this fragrance is going to be it's incredibly linear. So from the moment you spray it on till right now when you get in the deepest parts of dry down, it dries down in about 30 minutes or so. When a lot of that fruitiness starts to dial back a little bit, when some of that powderiness starts to come forward a little bit, when some of the wood notes in this starts to come through a little bit, some of the plum starts to die off and turn more so into a background note than a forefront note. That's pretty much about the whole change you get. There is a tiny bit of like a makeup-y smell in this, not iris, but maybe just something different in this to where it gives it a little bit of like a makeup style of smell. But you don't pick that up until the deepest parts of the dry down. And really that's all of the changes you get is that summed up right there. Is the fragrance does get a little bit softer. The fragrance does stay very thick though. So this is a fragrance where 3 or 4 sprays is pretty much all you're going to need to start off with. If you want to refresh halfway through the day, 1 or 2 sprays somewhere in there. But anything more than that, this fragrance has the potential to give you a headache. This fragrance has the potential almost to become boring because how much it doesn't change all the way through the dry down. Because once you hit about 30 to 40 minutes in this fragrance, and pretty much it will not change from there all the way until it becomes a skin scent, even then all the way until it falls all the way off your skin. So it is incredibly linear, and for having the performance that this thing has, it has the potential to be a little bit boring after about that 5th or 6th hour. And it also has potential where it can very easily be oversprayed. It can turn into a headache if you're not careful. And I think some of that comes from the potential of this being maybe just a little bit more synthetic than your average daily wear fragrance. But I don't want to speak on this in a bad light at all. To me, this is a rock star fragrance. This is a fragrance I will absolutely love to keep in my collection. And it just released last year. I want to say this one, yeah. So this one, get my camera to focus. Nope. My camera won't pick it up. This bottle was stamped as made in December of 2023. So this is a new release. I imagine this release is going to be around for a long time. If you're in the fragrance groups and stuff like that, you could probably get this for like in that $40 range. And honestly, for this fragrance for $40, you will love it. No complaints whatsoever. So if I had to rate this fragrance right now, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. The only few things I'm going to dock it for is for the price point that this was released at, because this is released at about 80 bucks. I kind of wanted it to be a little more natural. I kind of wanted it to be just a little bit more different than the original Hawas, because to me, it is different from Hawas. It would be different enough to justify having both, because really to me, the only real differences between this one and the original Hawas is this one is a little more fruitier. The wood note's a little bit stronger. And even though it does smell more natural, it still has a synthetic vibe to it. And that's kind of a turnoff for me. Another big thing that I'm kind of going to dock it on is the fact that if you're someone who doesn't like those slightly synthetic smells, this will lead itself to a headache. This one's a gamble on whether my wife likes it or not. There's been a few times where I'll put it on and I can't really go hop in a vehicle. Like, it's not one I can put on and then go hop in my vehicle, because if I do that, it's going to give my wife a headache. This is one that it kind of needs time to breathe. It kind of needs time to dry down, which tells me that this is a little more of a rougher fragrance. It's a little less complete. It's a less rounded fragrance, but comparing it to the original Hawas, to me, this is still an upgrade. This is still my preferred of the two. But I do think that is going to get us wrapped up for today. I'm going to go ahead and let's bottle just a little bit. Bottle wise, I like it. I like how it contours down to this blue. I like the white cap. The white cap kind of threw me off just a little bit. The cap is a snap cap, so, honestly, not bad there. The atomizer's really good. It really pushes it out. So yeah, all in all, bottle-wise, got some heft to it. No complaints there. But that is going to get us wrapped up for this one today. As always, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for subscribing, for sticking around, watching these videos, for staying tuned, for the feedback that I've been getting in the comments. I truly appreciate the conversations that can happen in the comments. So thank you for that. And as always, we will see you next time.